What if I told you there's a fried chicken shop so famous that people will wait for hours and more, all for one meal? It is not KFC, it's not Popeyes. It's Baik. It's noon in Jeddah. The sun is merciless, the kind that turns the streets into an oven. Yet, outside a building with a red and white board, hundreds of people stand in line. Now that is Baik for you, a $3.2 billion food empire with the most unbelievable business story that you will ever hear. The story starts far from the fryers and seasoning shakers of Baik. It starts in 1928 in the seaside city of Ramel, Palestine, where a boy named Shakur Abu Ghazala grew up breathing in the Mediterranean air that carried the scent of salt, citrus, and the slow rhythm of coastal life. His childhood was simple, but history had other plans with him. In 1948, when Shakur was just 20, everything changed. The Nakba, which is a catastrophe, forced more than 750,000 Palestinians from their homes. Families were scattered and compelled to leave their land for life. Shakur left behind not just a home, but a way of life. He crossed into Saudi Arabia with nothing but little determination and a big dream in his pocket. The dream to live a life that anyone could dream of. And the land he chose for it was too perfect. Saudi Arabia in the late 1940s was a nation at the tip of transformation. Oil had been discovered just a decade earlier, and the boom was beginning. With a lot of effort, Shakur found work at Aramco, the oil giant that was building the kingdom's future. For 15 years, he worked through that heat and long hours, watching the country change from a desert land into an economic powerhouse. And so did he. He adapted, learned, and eventually earned Saudi nationality. And that is when he found his new home away from his true home. That was not enough for Shakur. The fire that burned inside a little boy's heart had more to achieve and conquer. In 1963, chasing new opportunities, he moved his family to Lebanon because Beirut was buzzing with businesses at that time, and Shakur tried his hand at various ventures to slowly build up a life. But does life come that easily for anyone? 1965 came with a shock for Shakur, one that could have broken him. In 1965, the bank holding his life savings collapsed. He lost everything that he had earned overnight. For most, this would have been the end of the dream. For Shakur, it was simply the start of another chapter. Most people would have gone back to a stable job. But Shakur Abu Ghazala was not like most people. He went back to Saudi Arabia with a new idea in his pocket. Shakur returned to Saudi Arabia with a new idea that seemed unusual at the time, and that was fried chicken, served fast. In the early 1970s, the food scene of Saudi Arabia was almost too far from global fast food culture, and Shakur saw an opportunity that was hiding behind it. In 1974, he poured what little savings he had left into an experiment. Even his family looked at him with a sense of uncertainty, but he knew what he was doing. Shakur started a small fried chicken shop in Jeddah. Jeddah was a port city where pilgrims, merchants, and travelers from across the world crossed paths. He agreed with a French company to supply two things that no one else had. It was specialized pressure fryers that could cook chicken quickly without drying it out, and a special spice blend that promised a flavor unlike anything Saudis had tasted before. Soon, Shakur found an old warehouse on Airport Road that was about to fall, but he transformed it into something entirely new. Saudi Arabia's first roasted chicken restaurant. The concept was too new for the people of Saudi Arabia. Customers who came out of curiosity returned for the crunch, the juiciness, and the savory kick of the seasoning. And soon, the smell and taste of his fried chicken spread around Saudi Arabia. It didn't take much time for families to make weekend trips just for the new chicken place. By 1976, demand had grown enough for a second branch. And finally, Shakur's dream was gaining wings. The fryers never stopped hissing in his shop, and it felt as if success was finally here to stay. But just as Baik was finding its place in the heart of Saudi Arabia, tragedy struck, the kind that would test whether the business could survive at all. Shakur Abu Ghazala, the man with the vision, the drive, and who never dared to quit, died suddenly. He was just 48. The loss was crushing for his family. It was not just the grief of losing a father, but it was the sudden question of what would happen to his dream. His eldest son, Ehab, had just graduated with a civil engineering degree from King Fahd University. He was on track for a solid career in construction, and even had an offer to play professional basketball, a future worlds away from deep fryers and spice blends. His younger brother Rami was still studying engineering at Tennessee Tech University in the US, far away from the day-to-day struggles back home. They both had no interest in running a restaurant. Neither knew the first thing about managing staff, handling suppliers, or coping with the competition. But they did know two things: their father's work ethic, and that they were not going to let his dream die. But the reality they walked into was brutal. The business had lost its exclusive supplier rights. Debt ate them as a whole, They owned $1.8 million while competitors were showing up each day by copying the look and feel of their restaurant. There was no time for them to think. Ehab stepped into operations, learning on the fly. Rami took over the kitchen, cooking chicken, serving customers, and even cleaning floors after closing. The brothers were not just fighting to save a business. They were fighting to prove that Baik could survive without the man who started it all. But did their battle end there? By the early 1980s, Jeddah's fast food scene had just exploded. Around 400 outlets were battling for customers. Copycat restaurants were popping up every day like weeds. Some even used names and logos designed to trick customers into thinking they were walking into an Baik. The brothers had to fight them in court while winning some battles and losing others. But Ehab knew legal papers alone would not protect them. The only real defense was to give people something no one else could offer, a flavor that could never be imitated. In 1984, Ehab took a bold step and flew to Paris to study food technology, to master the science of taste. He learned how marinades penetrate meat, how frying temperatures affect texture, and how to preserve flavors so they stay consistent from the first bite to the last. When he returned to Saudi Arabia, he did not just walk back into the kitchen, he walked into his experiment lab. For 3 years, he and Rami worked nights at a hidden location, blending herbs, spices, and seasonings in exact proportions. Each batch was packed into containers and quietly delivered to the central kitchen. And the final result was 18 secret herbs and spices, a formula so carefully guarded that even today, only a select few within Baik know it. In 1986, the brothers came up with the new recipe, and now the chicken was richer, the flavors were deeper, the aroma was distinct. Soon enough, the customers started to notice that they were not just eating fried chicken, but they were eating Baik fried chicken. That same year, the brothers made another bold move. It was a rebranding. The restaurant officially became Baik, a Turkish word meaning the important one. And in the battlefield of Jeddah's fast food world, Baik stood like a warrior, up for any battle. By 1988, Baik had grown its roots in Jeddah, but fate was about to take it to the world stage. That year, the Saudi government came to the brothers with a request unlike any other. Can you feed the pilgrims during Hajj in Mina? This was not just catering for a big event. This was feeding millions of people during one of the largest annual human gatherings on Earth. Hajj brings Muslims from every corner of the globe to Mecca. In Mina, the atmosphere is filled with spirituality. The logistics of running a restaurant here were insane. The challenge for Baik was to set up a team for a seasonal branch that could serve 250,000 meals a day for only a few days each year. The brothers didn't think twice but said yes. They had one of the most efficient fast food operations in mind. Chicken, spices, flour, and oil were transported daily from massive warehouses, and staff worked in shifts around the clock, keeping fryers sizzling without a break. Customers were served in under 90 seconds, even with lines that seemed like giant snakes. For many pilgrims, Baik was not just a meal, it was part of their spiritual journey. After days of walking, praying, and completing rites, sitting down with a box of golden, crispy chicken felt like a celebration for them. And the impact was also immense. Pilgrims from Indonesia, Pakistan, Egypt, and beyond carried stories and cravings back home. When Baik later opened a permanent branch in Medina, some even called it a reward from God after completing the pilgrimage. And just like that, Baik went from a Saudi favorite to a global legend in the making. By the 1990s, Baik crossed that invisible line of lands. It was no longer a fast food joint, it was a cultural obsession. The Hajj years helped Baik to spread its aroma across the continents. Pilgrims who had tasted that golden, crispy chicken during their sacred journey went home with praises, and those words spread like fire and demand followed. The result was seen in Jeddah, where queues were growing longer and longer. Families planned outings around getting a table with teenagers standing in line for hours, and nobody complained because everyone knew the taste was worth it. In Riyadh, there were none, and some fans would travel 9 hours via road to Jeddah, fill their car trunks with chicken boxes, and drive back home, but with their hearts. And now it was time for Baik to breathe the air out of Saudi Arabia. For years, Baik played the ultimate game of culinary hard to get. While other chains raced to plant their flags across every city, Baik stayed rooted in Jeddah, Mecca, and Medina. And that scarcity is what made it more desirable. But in 2020, after decades of holding back, the brand finally spread its wings. The first international branch opened in Bahrain. Then came 2021 and a flashy debut in Dubai Mall, one of the busiest shopping centers in the world. The next year, 2022, brought Baik to the global spotlight with mobile kitchens at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Millions of visitors from every corner of the planet got their first bite of Saudi Arabia's most famous chicken. For some, it was love at first crunch. Back home, the long-awaited arrival in Riyadh was an insane event. Streets were filled with people, and even the police were sometimes called in to keep order. And with each new location, Baik proved that waiting had only made the hunger stronger. Baik's climb from a single warehouse in Jeddah to a multi-billion real icon was not luck. It was the result of a strategy so focused that competitors around the world have taken notes. At the heart of it is the quality control. Every branch follows the same precise procedures. From marinating times to frying temperatures, staff undergo intensive training to ensure that whether you're eating in Jeddah, Dubai, or Doha, your chicken tastes the same. Second, scarcity as a strategy. While others chased rapid growth, Baik grew slowly, turning each new opening into an event because the longer people waited, the stronger the craving became. Third was cultural integration. By tying its brand to pilgrimage seasons, Baik became more than food. For many, it's a memory, a tradition, even a piece of home. And finally comes affordability. Baik never positioned itself as a luxury brand. They kept meals within reach for everyday people without compromising quality. But will it be enough to battle the giants? Globally, fried chicken is a high-stakes battlefield, ruled by KFC, Popeyes, and Jollibee. But Baik's approach is different. While KFC focuses on franchising, Baik ensures every branch meets exacting standards. They are all in for slow expansion. Even today, despite its hype, Baik operates fewer than 150 outlets worldwide. But will it take on the West? That's the question now. Could Baik conquer London, Toronto, or Chicago? The opportunity is massive, and the demand is insane alone, and it can carry early success. But the hurdles will be real. Building reliable supply chains across continents and maintaining the brand's quality control at scale and adapting for local tastes without losing authenticity can be a challenge. If Baik leaps, they will begin where the cultural connection is strongest, like cities with large Arab communities, before chasing the mainstream. But one thing is for sure, if the West gets its first bite of Baik, the lines will be just as long as they were in Jeddah all those years ago. From a refugee's gamble to a $3.2 billion empire, Baik is proof that food can be more than a meal. It can be an identity, a memory, or a bond between a brand and its people. And maybe that's why, decades later, people will still stand in line for hours, not just for the crunch, not just for the taste, but for the feeling that they are part of something much bigger. Now here comes the real question. Where do you want Baik to open next? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and share.